Tattoos. What a controversial topic. They're on your skin forever. You could regret it. They dirty your image. We're not made to draw on the skin. Why do you hurt yourself that way? You're never gonna get a good job. These are all things I've heard from friends, co-workers, and even family members. Now, what's a tattoo? A tattoo is a permanent mark or design created on your skin, with pigments inserted through pricks onto the skin's top layer. Typically, the tattoo artist uses a handheld machine that acts much like a sewing machine, with one or more needle piercing the skin repeatedly. With every puncture, the needle inserts tiny ink droplets. Let's talk history. Stick and poke tattoos are the oldest form of tattooing, created before the invention of electric tattoo machines. People used to take porcupine or even dry bones and tie it to a stick, and then they would repeatedly poke the area where the ink is to lay. Though we are unsure as to where the first hand poke tattoos were created, the oldest discovered man tattooed was named Ötzi the Iceman and has been dated back to 5000 before Christ. These tattoos were often used to affirm a community's connection or as a religious practice. The Egyptians, 4000 to 2000 before Christ, used this practice to defend themselves from spiritual evils. Only the women were tattooed and not the men. In Inuit, First Nation, and Berber cultures, the women tattoo their faces with important moments or achievements of their lives. Like, for example, when they get their first period, when they get married. These tattoos are entirely part of their culture. Now, what is culture? Culture is a process by which we produce meaning. It is also a complex collection of media products and texts. Tattooing is in itself a way of communicating, not for others, but for the people that are aware of it. This is regarded as social-cultural. As people talk and grow, they produce and reproduce culture. Tattoos are a type of media that people produce and reproduce as time goes on. Nowadays, tattoos seem to have lost all meaning. People get one every other week. They have characters from the shows they watch on their skin forever. Silly words? That's not entirely wrong, but there is a reason for that. Tattoos might seem silly to someone, but to the tattooed person, it means a lot. It is part of their identity. They might get a tattoo because they like the experience of it, going to the tattoo parlor, sitting down, talking about it. The tattoo artist is usually very supportive or not supportive, depending on if your project is worth it. And then you get the tattoo, you're happy with it, you go home. Some get tattoos for the important moments of their lives. If your cat died, your dog died, your grandpa died, if you finish university. Others get it as a group experience, like best friend tattoos, or just friend tattoos. As Amanda Liu so clearly stated in her TED Talk, her tattoos are a critically important aspect of who she is as a person and how she expresses herself to the rest of the world. They are part of her personal identity and of her self-expression. I could say the same thing about my tattoos. And I would say that is true of most of the heavily tattooed people that I know. Race, sex, ethnicity, clothing, these make up the identity of a person. Are you sure you're Christian? Are you sure you're a woman? Why did you choose this shirt? If that were to happen to you, you would call this harassment, discrimination. But then when people randomly ask about your tattoos or grab you on the street, you wouldn't do this with any other aspect of identity. But when it comes to tattoos, people seem to throw courtesy and basic human decency right out the window. Like Amanda so perfectly said, no one thinks twice about negatively talking about tattoos. I myself have been questioned by strangers on the bus, in the cafe, like anywhere really, about my tattoos. Like, you're gonna regret that. But I've also had people come up to me and positively talk about my tattoos. They're a great icebreaker. I've made friends because of my tattoos. Hell, I've become friends with my tattoo artists. Getting a tattoo could be considered a phenomenological communication. The entire thing of getting a tattoo and then everyone around you looks at you differently or starts talking to you is in itself a way of communicating, which is why communication through dialogue, so like talking with people, is usually what ensues of a new tattoo reveal or just someone coming up to you because they like your tattoos. Although tattoos seem to be a great thing, I want to underline the risks of getting one. You could get an allergic reaction to the ink that lays under your skin. You could get a skin infection. You could get some bloodborne diseases if the equipment is not sterilized properly. And sometimes there are some MRI complications. So when you go into an MRI, it doesn't read properly because of the ink. So when you go to get a tattoo, make sure everything is sterilized properly. Make sure your tattoo artist knows what they're doing. Make sure you like the style of the tattoo artist and not just because you want a Pinterest drawing. When you get a tattoo, be ready for the entire experience of being a tattooed person in a world where it is still kind of stigmatized. To conclude, back in the day, tattoos were more social cultural and it has evolved into being phenomenological. With pigment inserted through pricks with pigment. The oldest discovered tattoo was discovered. These tattoos were often to affirm a community's connection. The the Egyptian the the Egyptians tattoos might seem silly to someone, but for that tattoo, sex, race, identity, ethnicity, no. No one thinks twice evolved into being phenomenological.